Hi, you're listening to Book Chat with author Vivian E. Moore.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hello and welcome to Book Chat. I am your host, author Vivian E. Moore. Hope everyone had a great week and I hope you are having a great weekend. This is Resurrection Weekend and I'm excited about that and I hope you are too. Alright, so we're going to get straight to today's show. The title is Crusin and the topic is the ebb and flow of writing. I sort of sent you out right there for a second and now you thinking it was going to be something else. But no, we're talking about writing as always. All right. So anyway, I've always found that being around water is peaceful. It is to me. I don't know about you. I can't swim, but as far as sitting and watching it, that's peaceful. As long as I don't have to get in there and try to swim, I'm good. All right. But anyway, it reminds me of the river. I live in Tennessee, and so of course the Tennessee River flows through. And I just remember being at the Tennessee Landing, either on one of the bridges or one of the parks. We have a bridge that has been transformed into a walking bridge. At one time, it was one of the oldest bridges in our city, and it had wooden. I guess the length of the bridge was actually wooden. So they closed it down, I think, in the 70s. And it stayed closed for a number of years before they opened it back up and turned it into a walking bridge, of course, after they had reinforced everything and made sure that it was safe for pedestrians. But in the midst of that is the Tennessee River. But anyway, I just love watching the waves as they gently flow. You see the boats, on the water. Some are not moving, some are just stationary, but just watching those waves just flowing, it's just so peaceful, never hurried, as if the waves understood the assignment of peace and tranquility. And I remember taking a dinner cruise on the Delta Queen one time, and that's a big deal for someone who suffers from motion sickness. Yet it was nothing but smooth sailing from beginning to end. And I think that is what's most memorable to me, is being on that boat, not being intimidated by it. Now, I'll be honest, I was a little bit at first because I didn't know how well I would do, with the motion sickness and all of that. But I did really, really good. And the trip was it was pleasant. It was in the summertime, so it was hot, but being on the water, of course, it was cooler than being on land. And just watching the waves and listening to the sound of the water as we just flowed down the river. It was nice. It was very nice. And that's how writing dialogue and POVs should be. The ebb and flow should be like a Sunday drive on a smoothly paved road. If you can't get to the river, then have that Sunday drive. That's a lot to ask for, I'm sure. But practice can eventually make your writing perfect. There are ways to achieve this rhythm of taking the reader along for the ride. And the goal is to allow them to experience the story fully engaged to the end. Of course, there is no magic involved in real life, but great editing can achieve the same response with these few techniques. All right, so the first one is avoid clutch words. In case you don't know what clutch words are, they are go-to words used in writing because they're comfortable, but they're unnecessary, and oftentimes those words are repeated. So if you use an editing tool like Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid, they will kindly point these out and suggest other less overused words, and that's a good thing. Because you want to, you don't want to overdo anything when you're writing. You don't want to use gigantic words that only you know the meaning to, especially if you are writing so others that may not be on an intellectual level can understand. Because everybody's not on the same level. But you want to make sure that, when you write something, when you write a book, you want to make sure that perhaps someone as low, in a grade as like the 3rd grade or the 4th grade can read it and understand what they're reading. That's what this is all about. Being able to understand, to just have that fluidity, that motion that is just so smooth that, you don't even realize, where you're going until you get there. But anyway, that's two of the editing tools that I like the most, and but I think I prefer Grammarly just a little bit more than Pro Writing Aid, but they're both great. So if you don't have those applications on your computer, you might want to get them because they are very useful. All right, so number 2 is to use solid sentences and paragraphs that flow seamlessly to the next. Now, we always want to use our words, and we want to use our words in the best way possible. And so that means that you have to have structured sentences. They have to make sense. And sometimes the best way to do this, because you can read what you write and it sounds right to you, but the best way to make sure that it makes sense to everyone else is to listen to the words. Just don't read them in your head, but actually listen to the words. And there is a feature on your computer, pretty much on every computer, that you can enable the voice with different voices to have it read whatever you've written, read it out loud to you. So that way you can hear it, and sometimes hearing, you can better judge if it makes sense or not, or if it's flowing the way it should flow or not. So that is another way. All right. So number 3 is to word substitution. And it's another feature that takes nothing away from active descriptions, but adds by redirecting the attention back to the characters. And what I mean by this is that instead of going into this long description of what of what the characters did or said, just said, she said, he said, whatever, just those type of examples, to make it short and sweet, but still, we know which character that we're talking about when you add those word descriptions or substitutions, on that dialogue. All right. On the POVs. Anyway, number 4 is this example, which is an excellent example of ebb and flow, is breaking up paragraphs. Again, Grammarly does a wonderful job of doing this for you. So you may have seen it, long paragraphs. And sometimes it's good to, whenever you get to a breaking point, which, you come to the end of a sentence and it's a good time to make another paragraph, then you should do that, because the way you see things, if it's broken up, if it's visually appealing to you, then, that makes it a whole lot easier to read and to understand when you don't have everything just lumped together. Okay. So make sure that you have, those breaking paragraphs. All right. And again, Grammarly will do that for you, just in case I didn't say it enough the first time. All right. So number 5 is, transition, or transitioning is another way to create the perfect ebb and flow between paragraphs and linking sentences and ideas closer together. You want to, even if you're starting a new sentence, but if it's in that same chapter everything should flow. Everything should go together. Everything should make sense. It should tie into the first paragraph of whatever chapter that you're working in until you get all the way down to the last paragraph in that same chapter. And then it should also flow throughout the story. Everything should make sense. Everything should be tied together. You shouldn't have to read in one place and say, okay, wait a minute, but I thought they were talking about this, and you get to somewhere else and it's like something totally different. So you want to make sure that everything is it's coming together, it's coinciding, and it just makes sense. All right. So we're not born with solid sentence structure. I wish we were, but we're not. And but we learn this as we grow. And the same applies to writing. You are a writer. You don't need to doubt yourself about that. Because if you have the passion for it, and if it's something that, that you do on a regular basis, whether it's writing poetry or, you're writing screenplays or you're just writing novels, that's what you are. You are what you are. So you never have to question yourself about that. But there's still room for growth. And, because even though you're writing, and maybe you've been doing it for a while, there's always room to learn something different, to learn something more. And I mean, that's just life in general. Once you stop learning or stop having room for growth, then that means you've come to the end. That's the end of that cycle. So, there's nowhere else to go. But just keep in mind that the more you learn, the better you are. My mother always said practice makes perfect, and that is so true. And it's necessary when great story details are the link between paragraphs and the characters. If things don't flow properly, then you risk the reader getting lost, therefore losing interest before they can immerse deeper into the story. And you always want them to go further than those first couple of paragraphs. You always want you want to hook them. In that first, if you don't hook them in the first paragraph, then you want to get them in the prologue, to pique their interest enough to where they want to move on to that first paragraph. And then from that first paragraph to the last one, to that last chapter in that novel, you want to make sure that they are totally engrossed all the way through. It is so important. All right. Because, we want to get this right the first time. And as a reader, I read as well. I understand the importance of concise details. All right. And there shouldn't be a need to reread anything to understand better what's happening in the story. I shouldn't have to have all these false starts. Like, wait a minute. Okay, I'm not getting this. Did I miss something? Let me go back and read this again just to make sure that I didn't miss something. You could be watching a movie on television and you have to rewind it because in your mind, things are just not clicking. It's just not coming together. You don't know what the word you're watching or what the story is about. So, the same thing happens when you're writing. You want to make sure that you are not forcing the reader before they actually put the book down, forcing that reader to have to go back and reread, a paragraph again and again, just so they can understand what's going on. It should be clear. It should be concise, conveyed in the writing. Okay. Or conveyance in the writing. Because that's just necessary. And if the ebb and flow are correct, no worries. You've just lost a fan if it's not. So just keep that in mind. In the end, writers should be intentional about what they want to convey and achieve through their writing. All right, that's all I have for you today. But before I let you go, I want to make sure that I give you these URLs because I want to keep you coming back to Book Chat, listening on a weekly basis, and not only listening, but liking and sharing. If you'll do that for me, I will appreciate it so very much. All right, so anyway, the first URL is for Spreaker, of course, and that is https://www.spreaker.com/user/author Vivian Moore. You can follow me across all social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and most recently TikTok. The only thing that I'm posting on there is things about my work, my books, my show, things of that nature. I sometimes I'm entertained by the videos that are on there. Some are pretty funny, and some are so ingenious. But that's that's just not what I do. I'm all about the writing and things of that nature. So that's what you will see posted on there from me. But anyway, just check that out if you want to. You can also check out my website, and that is at authorvivianamore.com or arthurehshepard.com. You can also check out my blog. That is at https://vivianamore.blogspot.com. All right. And also, if you missed today's live show, don't despair, because this show is recorded. So you can listen to all of those episodes, today's episode and all those that came before. You can listen to them on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, YouTube, SoundCloud, JalSavin, iTunes, Audible.com, Verbal Luminary, and Amazon Music. All right, so those are all the places where you can check out Book Chat, and I hope that you will. Tomorrow is Worship Day. It is the third Sunday. It is Easter Sunday. It is Resurrection. Why do I always have problems saying that? Resurrection Sunday. All right, I got it out. Finally. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it because, all jokes aside, it is a very serious time. And we have so much to be thankful for the life that was sacrificed so we could have life. And, and I take that very seriously, and I hope that you do as well. I hope you're planning, going out to, I don't know if there would be early morning worship services or not. With COVID, so many things have changed. And, last Easter, we weren't at church yet because of COVID. So, we missed that coming together for Easter, although we did still have church service, but it was over the phone. But this year's a little bit different. So we're actually going out and being able to worship together on Resurrection Sunday. So that's something to be excited about. And, if you follow the guidelines, please, invite your family members, your neighbors, your friends, and bring children. Like I said, things are a little bit different now because of COVID. And I know Easter Sunday at our church in past times, it was like a little fashion show when you see all the little kiddies come in with their cute little pastels and in suits and things of that nature on. It was just wonderful, just seeing all the kids and listen to them do their Easter speeches, and things of that nature. So those were great times, and I hope that eventually we can get back to that because, I do miss it. And, church is a place for children. It is. They need to be there too because, who knows, our future leaders of the church can come from those children. So we need to encourage them to want to come out, not just small kids, but teenagers as well, because everybody needs to hear the word. And they also need to hear how you feel about them. Because, like I always say, you never should put off telling people, your family members, your friends, how you feel about them. Because tomorrow is not promised. Today may be the only chance you get to say that. So on that note, I love you. I hope you love me back. Until the next time you hear my voice, God bless you. And goodbye.
Loved what you've heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. It would mean the world to us if you could head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and achieve even greater things. Thank you.